Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day 14 of the Regeneration Marathon. Today, we're taking a bit of a sidestep. We're doing a minisode and a big finish. We're taking a look at Night of the Doctor and Light the Flame, part of the War Doctor Begins range. Once again, I'm joined with Luke.
Yes, you are. I'm here sticking out until the end, aren't I?
Well, hopefully you
No,
don't regenerate in the process.
yeah, no getting rid of me at this point. Yeah, I might
Uh,
regenerate into someone else. You'll have to find a new guest for tomorrow.
oh, that'll be a bit of
Oh,
a challenge.
oh, a bit late notice.
Yes, well, it is now because we're committed to the series.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's no stopping it now.
Oh no.
Uh, just like there was no stopping the Time War because now we're into that period of the Doctor's life, aren't we? We've
Hmm.
had a bit of fun for the TV movie, but now things are getting a bit dark for the Eighth Doctor as the universe falls apart around him. And I mean, this is probably the most interesting episode of the Regeneration Advent Calendar because I mean we're doing two different stories instead of one here for a change. And also, like you say, it's a minisode and a big finish. We've done a big finish before.
Yeah.
We've not done a minisode before because well, there's not really that many of them, and this is the only one that features a regeneration in. So yeah, and it's probably the most well-known minisode of Doctor Who, I'd say. Maybe this and Time Crash, I think, are probably vying for the top spot.
Yeah, that's true. So I think the one thing about the Stephen Moffat era is he was very big on prequels, preludes, and I think Night of the Doctor sort of the last big one. I
Yeah,
want to
it's sort of,
say,
they tried to push it going forward, didn't they? I think Series 9 had a couple, and I suppose the last real one Doctor Who had
oh
was
yeah,
that Bill intro.
yeah, that's true. Actually, I was just because of Series 9 one, he's back on Khan. I know Healy's in
Mm.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she comes. Actually, no, Series 9 didn't that have two because you also had that one where he's running around that castle
Yeah, oh yeah, the
for some reason.
magician's the magician's oath is or something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, you can see why some of them are not as well remembered, but I don't. They were nice little extras to have to like tide you over. I wonder if we'll ever get any more now that Russell's back. Yeah, certainly didn't really get any during the Chibnall era.
No, no, he didn't at all.
Yeah. I remember there was an interview once with Stephen Moffat where he was saying about how, he sees with the coming of streaming and such that there will now be a time where TV isn't like nightly slotting into one time slot. You'll have really long episodes and really short episodes. And boy, was he right with that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he
Like
was. Yeah.
certainly, yeah. Like you don't really get anything as short as a minisode now when it comes to streaming. But certainly you do get some like with Disney Plus, you'll have episodes of The Mandalorian that are about half an hour. And then you look to Stranger Things and it's got an episode that's 2.5 hours long. So
Yeah, there's no in between
yeah,
now.
yeah, certainly Moffat really did see ahead when it came to what was going on in the TV industry there. So kudos to him. I remember seeing that interview at the time and thinking, well, he's a bit wrong there, but no, he really wasn't.
Yeah, he's bang on the money.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, Night of the Doctor. This was something of an event, really, wasn't it? What sort of mindset were you in? How were you feeling? What were you doing when Night of the Doctor dropped? I think you said before, it's the what were you doing when Kennedy was shot for Doctor Who fans?
It really is because this was the week leading to the 50th. We had like the Science of Doctor Who. I think the same day this came out, wasn't it? Um,
Yeah, it sounds about right.
or like Adventure in Space
Might be
and
the day
Time.
after.
Um, and for me, it was kept a secret because I was at school. Oh gosh, that's scary.
Oh,
And literally, you weren't allowed your phones. I wasn't anywhere near a computer that day, so I got home, saw that there was this little mini-sode. 'Cause there was rumblings that there was going to be something, whether it was with John Hurt, David Tennant, Matt Smith. I don't think McGann was in the equation at all.
Yeah, I think they said it was going to be a doctor, but we didn't know which. And I think they put it like up online before, and it was like like how you have YouTube premieres now. It was
Mhm.
that sort of thing, wasn't it? Where it was going to be dropped, and we were just waiting for it to happen on the iPlayer.
Um, and yeah, got home, sat down, and was just really shocked. And I think Night of the Doctor for me is a big episode because it's allowed me to take a look at the next story we're going to look at in this day, which is a Big Finish story, because this got me into Big Finish really.
Had you not listened to any Big Finish before this then?
I'd listened to like Blood Tide, but I think this really
No.
cemented going, I want McGann.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was still a while off me getting into Big Finish. Like, it was only over the summer of 2013 I started diving back into Doctor Who again, really collecting classic Who DVDs. And so I'd rewatched the TV movie fairly recently. And Big Finish, I was aware of. It was all like in my peripheral, so to speak. But I hadn't dived into the Eighth Doctor or any others at all. And so I didn't have much of a connection to Paul McGann. But it was still a nice surprise seeing him there. And it's an iconic line now, isn't it? I'm a doctor, but probably not the one you were expecting. And it's so brilliant because it worked completely well in the context, but also it's a very meta wink at the audience line, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Really, it just shows how sharp Moffat's writing is.
Very much so.
And there's a great wit there, especially the way he writes McGann.
Yeah.
He gets McGann's Doctor very well.
Yeah. And it's nice how there are still some lighter touches to his Doctor within these 4 minutes. Like, certainly with the Time War going on, it is meant to be more of a darker state for his Doctor, but it's nice still having that glimmer of hope in his attitude, really, isn't it?
I mean, he's
His
basically a
personality.
walking dead body, but he's like, bring me knitting if I get bored, you know?
Yeah, very much so.
It's
It's
wonderful.
like you have that wonderful line of why are we going to the back of the ship? Because the front crashes first. Think it through.
It's just got such good dialogue. We're like, oh, it just makes perfect sense. It's great.
Yeah. It's that right amount where you're just wanting more of McGann, isn't it? And it almost adds to the pain that we didn't get anything more. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
until Power of the Doctor.
Yeah, it's true. We got a little bit more now, haven't we, to keep us going? But certainly it is a good I suppose it's like a backdoor pilot for Big Finish, isn't it? Or like not quite pilot because that's more, to get things made. But it's a gateway drug for Big
It
Finish.
it is because you get the big moment of him listing off his companions before he drinks the elixir,
Mm. Well, most
which
of them at least.
well, it kind of gets around it, you know. At
Yeah.
the end line's a bit vague, but it's fine.
Yeah, friends, companions, I salute you.
Yeah, it's literally like, yeah,
People,
Liv, Helen,
yeah. Andy,
Andy, mate.
Tanya,
Oh,
Bliss.
yeah. Well, this is a different story altogether.
Uh,
I guess while we're mentioning Big Finish, we talk about McGann's Big Finish because I think that probably helped him ease into the role.
yeah, that's true because obviously TV movie post Regeneration, so he never quite got the chance to have his own full Doctor Who story, really, did he?
No.
Because yeah, like by the time he was fully formed, they cut him off. It didn't get picked up, and so yeah, 1996 that went out, and then only 4 years later, really got picked up by Big Finish. The first one came out January 2001.
He did some original stories for like cassette.
Was that reading an audiobook? Or was that full audio drama?
Um, I think it was more like prose. So
Yeah.
I think it's like Earth and Beyond, where you have like the TV movie novelization being read by him, and then you get like a little bonus thing with him in it.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan of that, was he? Because his agent told Big Finish, oh, he won't be interested. He's done a bit of this before. And so that's why it took a while longer for him to get there until McGann himself heard about Sylvester, Colin, and Peter being involved in this. And he was like, well, why haven't you invited me?
And I think it's because like Janet Fielding was his agent, going, "You don't want to touch that. Don't do it."
Funny how times changed and now she's doing it herself.
Yeah,
I'm not sure actually. Would it?
because I know she was his agent at some point, much like Wendy Padbury was Matt Smith.
Yeah. Was he an? Is she still an agent now, or is she
I
retired from
I
it?
think she's probably retired at this point.
Yeah. 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 Was she his agent around the TV movie then?
Probably.
Yeah. I suppose that could have been it. Um. Yeah. Nevertheless, he came to Big Finish, and then he never really left, did he? He got
No,
a
he's
full.
become like a constant, which is nice.
Mm.
And there's
I mean, there was a.
always that buzz when McGann drops. 'Cause it's like fresh new Doctor Who.
Yeah. I mean, for Big Finish, he was very much the incumbent Doctor, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, he
Up
was the
until
catch, wasn't he? He was the
yeah,
reason Moffat never did Big Finish.
yeah, like up until the new series license came along, he was like the, I suppose, event Doctor, really, especially towards Dark Eyes time, where his
Yeah.
availability was a lot less, and so he was the first Doctor they put into the box set format proper. And now look where they've gone with that. It's box sets for every Doctor.
I think Dark Eyes just feels like that big occasion because you get hints of the Time War, so you're like, oh my god, we're. And this was before Night of the Doctor as well, so like it
Yeah,
was
this was
unknown
that whole year
territory.
before. Yeah.
So I think that's why Dark Eyes probably resonates with like our generation of fandom, I want to say.
I suppose it was also that with Dark Eyes, you got new promo pictures of McGann, didn't you? You got him in the blue jacket.
Yeah, from
Pictures of him.
2010 from New
Uh,
Zealand, yeah.
yeah, probably about there, isn't it? Yeah, and so it's like almost not quite having a new Doctor, but it's like if it was being made today or well in 2012, isn't it? It
Yeah.
gives that vibe rather than it being what Big Finish is, where it's harkening back to the past and filling in those old eras. Because McGann doesn't really have an era to fill in, they really do get to create their own, and he's got multiple like different eras now, hasn't he? From Charlie to Divergent, Lucy, and now like this ongoing stuff with Liv and Helen.
Yeah.
So he really has flourished at Big Finish and continues to do so more than ever, because certainly his availability seems to have picked up a bit, because at one point we were getting 1-2 box sets a year. Now we're getting like 4 sometimes, and he's like popping up in other ranges as well, doing his
Yeah.
bit.
2020, we were spoiled,
Oh yeah, we were. Well, but I think 2019 as well, weren't we? Because we had Rage of the Time Lords. Was it Ravenous 3 and 4 that year?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it
Would have
was.
been, yeah.
And we had Lucy Miller and a Time War box set, Time War 3.
Yeah,
So
we had good that year as well.
yeah, I'm sure there's some other like appearance somewhere I'm forgetting about. But yeah, certainly he's been popping up in more and more places. And I mean, most recently, we are currently in. Well, I've finished Paradox of the Daleks. You're currently in the middle of it. But yeah, I mean, by the time this goes out, Connections, the next Eighth Doctor Adventures box set, will be out, and I'm sure we'll have been on stream discussing our thoughts on those. But yeah, so after all that Big Finish work, he eventually got contacted to take part in this little minisode, didn't he?
Yes.
And so then was shoved in the back of a blacked out car, driven to Cardiff, and on the 7th and 8th of May 2013, he recorded this little short, his Regeneration, to sort of finally hand over the reins, so to speak, and hand them over to John Hurt, technically.
Yeah, what a weird thing to think about, really, isn't it?
It's funny thinking about these things that are now just part of accepted canon. Like, we don't think about them anymore, just how big they were back then.
No, because I guess like the Timeless Children's another kettle of fish.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose we're still sort of dealing with that, even though it's been a couple of years since the reveal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think once we get to Joe Martin doing Big Finish and fleshing that out a bit more, I think that's when we'll be in the acceptance phase of it.
Yeah, probably.
It's like the 5 stages of grief, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
That's where we're at. But yeah, fun fact about Night of the Doctor. The scenes on Khan were filmed first, and then the second day was when they filmed the stuff in Cass's ship. So McGann's regeneration wasn't the last thing he filmed. Like, actually filmed all the first half of the story second, which
I
just
mean,
feels
that does
weird.
feel very Moffat. Like, it doesn't like characters dying.
Hmm.
You're like, I'll let him live.
Yeah, I suppose it gives him the most fun part, the running down corridors classic thing, to be his last memory of playing the Doctor on screen until Power of the Doctor comes along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Would you
wasn't
like
actually him, but it was a
Yeah.
body. Body double. Yeah.
Hmm. I mean, we all know about this story, but would you like to give us a quick synopsis anyway?
I can try. So don't get some knitting out ready. It's a very simple story. It's literally there's a ship about to crash, a gunship with Cass on. We don't know anything about Cass. She's just a person who's got caught up in this time war. In comes the wrong TARDIS. So you're like, oh, it's got the St. John ambulance logo. It must be Matt Smith. No, it is the one and only Paul McGann. Comes swooping in. Ship's about to crash. Off they go. Doctor's off to get into the TARDIS with Cass and see the wonders of the universe, which is the Eighth Doctor entirely. But she realizes, hang on, did you say bigger on the inside? Not a fan. Time Lords, Daleks, who can tell the difference? Shuts the door. Doctor could have easily left, but no, crashes on Khan, and there we have the Sisterhood revealing that, yeah, your mate's died, your companion, but you're dead. You've got 4 minutes. Basically, we've made you some drinks. Have a drink, and
Yeah.
the
Kickstart
Doctor
your
accepts it.
regeneration.
Kickstart your regeneration, and ends with Doctor No More.
Yeah. Well, there's that wonderful line of "Will it hurt?"
Yeah, it's
And
a
of course, that's
wonderful
led to many John Hurt jokes.
line. And McGann's last line, "Physician, heal thyself."
Yeah.
I like that because it shows that he's a broken man,
Mm.
and he's hoping this magic potion will put him back together and be the person he needs to be.
Yeah, but it definitely does feel like, it is sort of picking up on all that time that's been spent with him with Big Finish up until this point.
Yeah,
I suppose part of that is just down to how McGann plays it as well, because that's his main experience of playing the Doctor, really.
yeah, it is.
But I mean, what do you think about it as a story? Because it's hard to judge, really, because it's just an event. It's that adrenaline of first watching it. It's all those memories of how you felt when McGann first danced back onto your screen.
I think I still have the same feelings for it.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to shake it when you watch it, isn't it? And I mean, that's not a bad thing at all.
No, because Night of the Doctors, it's not a story where you pick it up off your shelf and go, I'm going to watch that. It's one of the most accessible stories you can watch because it's on YouTube.
Yeah, it feels almost bizarre when they upload clips of it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who wants to watch a clip of Night of the Doctor? Just sit down and watch the whole thing.
It's not a story you naturally go, I'm in the mood to watch it, because it's a mini-sode. But you think it's a lot of fun, and it's a difficult one to rate.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, because as a minisode, I think it probably does everything it can do, really.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, we're always going to want more, aren't we? We're going to want more of McGann. If it wasn't, if it wasn't a full episode, or if it was a full episode, we'd want a mini-series. If it wasn't a mini-series, we'd want a full series. It's just, we're always going to want more.
We're just greedy.
Fans. Yeah. But you've just got to remember that what you've got in front of you is still very good. And it's like that taste of what could have been almost, isn't it?
And it just looks so good.
Yeah, it's very solid production values.
Yeah, it's just a lovely 6 minutes of fun.
I think there's also just that nice callback of Khan, really.
Yeah.
Which you sort of almost take for granted in the midst of McGann, that you're getting a Brain of Morbius sequel of sorts, I suppose.
But then you're like, oh, he had that with Lucy Miller.
It's true.
Which is fine.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
But yeah, I suppose, I mean, 8 would feel appropriate, but I wouldn't, I'd say maybe 9 even.
I'm gonna go 9,
Yeah,
just because of the warm, fuzzy feelings it gives me.
I don't know. Part of me even wants to go 10 because I can't think of anything it does wrong per se.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it feels weird to give it that. I don't think it earns that either, I suppose.
it feels wrong giving a Minnesota 10,
Yeah,
but
because
you're
it's
completely right that it does everything it needs to in that time.
it's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like it's that comparison of a gourmet meal to a McDonald's. Like ultimately, the gourmet meal is always going to be that much better. But your McDonald's, you know what you're going in for with that,
it satisfies
and
you
you're
still.
happy. Yeah, it gives you everything you want from a McDonald's. You're not going to complain that it's not the quality of the gourmet meal because that's what that's not what it is.
Yeah,
And so with a minisode, I suppose if you're looking at the runtime as a comparison of price, in a way, you get what you'd expect for that runtime, or more so even, I'd say. So yeah, I think 9. I'll agree with you on that one.
there we go.
Yeah. And then we got John Hurt as the Doctor, and we'll be talking much more about him, the man himself, tomorrow as we cover Day of the Doctor.
Yes.
But first, well, he did some big finish. I think, was it 2016? No, 2015, wasn't it? December.
Yeah, December. Yeah,
That's that. Yeah, he did a run on Big Finish, four, sorry, 3-part box sets. But then sadly passed, and so the War Doctor was sort of like left on the shelf for a little while until Big Finish decided to do a recast, something they'd become famous or infamous for, yes, by this time, depending on which side of the fence you fall. But rather a different one in the form of Jonathan Carley as the War Doctor. So like an unknown in terms of acting quantity, but quite well known to Doctor Who fans by this point.
Yeah.
And or certainly the ones who are terminally online, I guess, like us.
I mean, he was known to me from like his Sixth Doctor figure adventures he did back in like 2010 and like his Series 5 reviews. I was a big fan of him.
Yeah, he's come really far now, hasn't he? And so I think his hard work's paid off, and best of luck to him with his career going forward. But yeah, it's a wonderful recasting there, and what they described it as, which I think was quite nice, is that this isn't a straight up recast per se, because this is the young War Doctor. This is the War Doctor Begins. This is the War Doctor we see right at the end of Night of the Doctor, where it's a picture of a younger John Hurt taken from Crime and Punishment, a BBC TV show back in 1979. And so with that, they took the approach of like the Ewan McGregor versus Alec Guinness casting, didn't they? They described it as.
Yeah,
which, it's all like a different take on the character, but at the same time, it is the same character and a younger.
I think what's interesting with like the Big Finish War Doctor stuff is that the War Doctor Begins is very much more the mechanics of the character of the War Doctor. Whereas the Big Finish John Hurt is more of going, it's John Hurt, let him just be the Doctor.
Yeah, that's it really, isn't it?
And I think that's the divide between those two. If you want to know the War Doctor as a character, get with Jonathan Carley. But if you just want to go, it's acting legend John Hurt being the Doctor, then enjoy those 4 box sets we got with him.
Because the whole decision behind John Hurt's casting was, this is an actor you could have seen playing a Doctor in like the 90s, early 2000s, isn't it?
Well, I think it was more of a case of Doctor was off air in 2012 because of the Olympics, and Stephen Moffat had promised the BBC 2013 is going to be the Doctor Olympics, and McGann was going to be in there the Doctor, but McGann isn't the Olympics of Doctor Who, according to the BBC, so we had to get somebody with a big reputable name to go, this is the 50th of Doctor Who.
Hmm. I mean, certainly without McGann, I think John Hurt is. It feels wrong to say the next best thing because that feels like a disservice to him. But
Where's Chris? Why you dissing our boy Eccleston?
yeah, that's true. Actually, I mean, he refused. Well, not point blank. I think Moffat took him out to a few dinners, didn't he, to try and convince him? But
I think it's because
yeah,
Moffat couldn't
that's.
deliver a script in time. So he's like, why should I
Oh,
bother?
I mean, well, we could talk more about that tomorrow for
Yes,
Day
yeah,
of the Doctor because there's certainly quite a few interesting bits of behind the scenes trivia there, isn't there?
yes, for sure.
But yeah, Jonathan Carley stepping into this role. It's brilliant how he really does capture the essence of John Hurt, isn't it? And I mean, John Hurt's got such a gravelly voice throughout his life that I don't think his voice ever really changes.
No, no.
Certainly not too much. So I could easily see Jonathan Carley at one point doing the older War Doctor anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't quite remember when this one was announced.
I think it was October
Yeah.
2020, I want to say.
Yeah, that sounds feasible.
We got like
It,
a little teaser
yeah, it was
for the story.
Yeah, it was recorded back in 30th September to 2nd of October, this box set. So I can see them announcing it not long after they recorded it. And then finally it released in June 2021. So yeah, Louise Jameson of Leela fame is the director of all these box sets, and she sort of took Jonathan Carley under her wing in a way, didn't she? They sort of had an
Yes.
acting workshop before they even started on the did a full day of recording just to really mold his acting chops, I suppose. And really,
I think when
push
you
him.
have things like that, it's all well and good doing an impression, but how do you connect that impression with an actual performance, like the subtext of the script, the journey, like all that sort of stuff? What you know. So
Hmm.
it's good that Louis James was like, right, let's break it down. We've got the voice. Let's try and build with what's going on with the character there.
Yeah. It's like we've got the raw material, now let's sharpen it into a fine blade. And
And
I
it
think,
worked a lot.
yeah, I think it's nice to see Big Finish take that confidence with a release, really. I
Yeah.
like to go that all out with it rather than just chucking something together quickly. I think it shows a lot of dedication on their part to really producing something special with this. And it's certainly something very different because with The Brink of Death that we did before, that was Big Finish's first and at this point only really post but not post, sorry, just regeneration story, full stop. Whereas now they're getting to do a canon. Well, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, one
yeah.
that fits into continuity, I'll say,
There we go.
post regeneration story, because they've kind of done it before. Because we had David Warner, and I'm pretty sure some of the other Unbound Doctors as well might
Yeah,
have had
Exile.
post regeneration. But yeah, this is one that's fitting into canon, so it's something very rare for Doctor Who in general. So it's even rarer for Big Finish to get a chance to do that. Yeah, I suppose it's the right place to start with the War Doctor Begins, isn't it? Obviously.
Yeah.
So this box set is available from bigfinish.com if you want to pick it up. You also
Not a
have two other,
sponsor.
yeah, you do have two other stories in there. After that, which are Lionhearts by Lou Morgan and The Shadow Squad by Andrew Smith, and also Light the Flame itself, the episode that we'll be talking about. There is a free 15-minute preview, so if you're unsure about it, go check that out. But we will be going into full spoilers for this particular episode as we dive into the synopsis. So that's just a heads up for those who haven't listened to it in case you maybe want to. But yeah, I think it's sort of a given with us and this series that we're going to go into spoilers. But when it's Big Finish and there is that paywall there, we feel like it's only right to give a bit more of a warning for that sort of thing. But yeah, I suppose
Take
With
it
that
away.
said, shall we dive into the synopsis?
Yes, go on, take it away.
So, Light the Flame picks up pretty much where Night of the Doctor left off, fittingly enough. We're still on Khan, and we get to spend a whole story there, which is nice. It really fleshes out the world a lot more as things go along. But yeah, the Doctor is in his cave trying to light a fire. He's being very grumpy. He no longer wants to be called the Doctor, but for the purposes of this synopsis, he will be called the Doctor because otherwise it will get a bit complicated. So yeah, Ohila, who was the head of the Sisterhood, contacts Gallifrey, Commander Tamazan. Is it Commander or Commodore?
I think
It might be
Commander, isn't it?
Yeah, some high-ranking Time Lord who gets in contact to explain that the Doctor's regeneration has been successful. He is now a warrior like they wanted, and so
He drank the lemonade.
Yeah, very
That's-
much so.
That's what Moffat said in the book.
Yeah, it was. I kind of prefer the idea that it was a what do they call that?
Lemonade.
Placebo. Yeah, well, placebo, where
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it doesn't actually do anything. It's not actually chosen for him what he's going to be. It's just more of that mental thing if he thinks he's drunk and something that's going to turn him into a warrior, and now that's what he is. And I think this story doesn't necessarily contradict it, to be fair,
No.
but it certainly does feel like it's more taking the impression that it actually was a elixir that changed things. But I mean, while we're on that topic, what do you think? How do you feel about that? Do you think it actually was a proper elixir that changed him, or do you think it was just lemonade?
I mean,
Lemonade that hurts.
I like the idea of
McDonald's Sprite. McDonald's Sprite.
I mean, the Sprite challenge, neck it and try not burp.
Sorry, go on.
I like the idea of because this story really explores Khan very well, like the mythos, how the planet works, and like the sisterhood as a society. So I can see that working better. But a part of me doesn't like the idea of there's this magic thing where it dictates what you're gonna be. So I do like the idea of it's a placebo, probably.
Yeah, it's like that thing of, I mean, throughout Day of the Doctor, it's very much the message of same software, different case.
Yeah.
It's like the idea that this is still the same man, but he's able to have a bit of dissonance, isn't he, between the incarnations because there's a different face there, because there's a different attitude there. But ultimately, it's the same person. So I'm not going to be throwing my toys out the pram for the storyline that it is actually something that changes him. But at the same time, I do prefer the idea that, he just had a somewhat normal regeneration and he's just able to convince himself that he needs to be a warrior now because that's what the universe needs. But yeah, in the story where the universe very much needs that, 2 more Time Lords are sent to aid the Doctor in his transition and get his TARDIS battle ready, and they are Cardinal Rasmus and Commander Sanmar. So they come to help things out. Meanwhile, the Doctor is out scavenging the fields, like the wastelands of Khan, where all the ships have been pulled down. And it seems like a lot more have ended up there during the Time War, doesn't it? You've got quite a few casualties spread throughout these fields. I think there's a specific name, isn't it? Like the Graveyard of the Dead, or no? That's a silly name. All graveyards are bloody graveyards of the dead.
Yeah.
There's some name they call it, isn't it?
Yeah. The story does have some nice poetic lines from the sisterhood.
To be fair, I think the whole graveyard thing is very much taken from Brain and Morbius still. I'm pretty sure
it is.
Given its name there. But yeah, its name's escaping at the moment. It's definitely not Graveyard of the Dead. Ignore me, that's a silly name. But yeah, so he's scavenging for weapons, isn't he? And he meets Lithia, one of the acolytes of the Sisterhood, who's particularly gifted when it comes to seeing the Time War. And she's sort of able to open up a matrix window, as the Doctor calls it, to view the Time War's progress. And that's where this story really starts to weave the Sisterhood into lore that came later in Doctor Who, because the Matrix didn't come along until The Deadly Assassin the year after Brain and Morbius, or actually the same year as Brain and Morbius, but the season after. And so it's nice how they're able to work that in so seamlessly, and it feels so right, doesn't it? Having the Sisterhood being just a different form of Time Lord science, but one that's taken a more magical route, and they're able to tap into similar concepts, aren't they?
Yeah, because they're often described in this story as like witches, aren't they, really?
Yeah, sort of like a breakaway group sent away by Rassilon, but they've got their own history where Rassilon is very much a king of lies, and he rewrote Time Lord history to cast the Sisterhood in more of a bad light, didn't they?
I mean, this fits with like Moffat's vision of like what the Sisterhood is, because they're in Ohelia's in Hellbent as well, you know.
Yeah. I mean, even back in Brain of Morbius, they're very much described as having a sort of love-hate relationship with the Time Lords, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's very much a strong connection there, but also a distrust, and an understandable one as well, when as this story progresses, because one of the Time Lords sent along, Cardinal Rasmus, is an old friend of the Doctor's, really, isn't he? He's popped up in quite a few releases, so they get along very well. Commander Sanmar, original to this story, is not a very nice character. She is one of the more extremist of the Time Lords, and one who started off in a good place. There's a nice mirror of her where it's revealed that she actually, left Gallifrey after the Academy, did some exploring in her time, but then when she came back to the Time War and started fighting in it, she became more and more the ends justify the means, and a lot of casualties of innocence were suffered under her watch. And so you have this nice mirror there placed up to the War Doctor, where this is what Gallifrey wants from him, really.
They treat him as like it was an experiment by the Time Lords, isn't it? But they have been wanting, he's been like a rogue element for them, and to finally have him to be a part of the war now. That's the way they're trying to go with him now, really.
So he's sort of like Cardinal Lystra's pet project, isn't he?
Yeah.
She's like been trying to get him involved for ages, and we've seen that throughout things like Time War, the Eighth Doctor, Time War 1. I think there's that episode where they're in a boot camp where he's been forced into it. But things don't quite go as Lystra wanted there. So while the Doctor's easing into his new regeneration, there's not really much trauma with this one, is there? Which is an interesting way. I
guess because there's probably a set idea that he's a warrior now. So it kind of gets rid of all that preamble. Who am I? Oh yes, I'm not the Doctor. I'm a warrior.
So they Rasmus and Sanmar give up on rebooting the Doctor's TARDIS, making it into a battle TARDIS, because the Doctor is very much against that idea. There's that wonderful line where he says, I've been forced to change. I'd rather she not go through the same thing. Which is, it's beautiful, really, isn't it? And it's always wonderful seeing that connection between the Doctor and the TARDIS, because it's something that some stories sort of forget, I suppose. It does more become just a machine to get the Doctor from A to B, but it's nice when that connection is remembered like it is there. And so with that, Sanmar has gone off on her own mission now, being guided by Lithia into the core, because as the Time War is approaching Khan, they are in quite a lot of danger. And so there's talk of securing the Sacred Heart of Khan, isn't there, making it safe. But really, Sanmar's mission is to transport that to Gallifrey and to steal the secrets of the Sisterhood.
Weaponize it.
Lithia isn't very pleased when she finds out that this is what Sanmar's up to, and so Sanmar ends up shooting her dead and leaving her outside the chamber while she sets up her teleportation thing to move it to Gallifrey. And to hell with the consequences that'll happen to Khan, really. So the Doctor tries to get the TARDIS down there, but Khan resists it. And so he's able to get just about outside the chamber, him, Ahelia, and Rasmus then rush in to confront Sanmar and what she's doing. She says that what she's doing is sanctioned by Tamazan and Rassilon himself. And so when the Doctor calls up Tamazan about this, she has to feign ignorance, doesn't she, to appease Rasmus, really, and acts as if Sanmar is a extremist out for herself, a zealot. But Sanmar isn't very pleased with this response. But Tamazan basically throws her to the wolves, really, and says, let Khan do what it will, let the people there have their own punishment for her. Which comes in the form of the flame itself, because Sanmar's been very dismissive of the mystical side of things on Khan, hasn't she? She's rationalizing everything, but that comes to bite her in the arse when the flames, as like the ghost of Lithia, comes after her and burns her to death, I suppose. Is the fate that Sanmar meets in the end. And so then the front of the Time War is still approaching, and the Doctor says, well, I'll use this equipment here to blow the whole place up, really, is his threat to Tamazan. If she doesn't instead put into place the time lock, which they could have easily done anyway, but instead went down the route of sealing Khan's secrets. And so Tamazan agrees that rather than lose the secrets of Khan, she will instead place this time lock around Khan to keep it safe from the Time War. But yeah, so the Time Lords themselves then leave, and before the war front hits Khan, and before the time lock is even put into place, Khan disappears. The Doctor says that Ohelia removed it from the board, so to speak, didn't she?
Yeah.
Is the way it's put. And it's that nice little mystical note to end things off on, as the Doctor and Rasmus go their separate ways out into the Time War. The Doctor saying that he needs to find his own way to fight this Time War, find out who he is. And yeah, that's pretty much what the rest of the box set and rest of the War Doctor Being series is about as it goes on. Yeah, it's a interesting start to the range, I suppose. We've not got any Daleks in this one, because that's to come later. They're sort of saving them, aren't they? Yeah. So what do you make of this story?
I think that this is a real interesting one, and I enjoy it. I think that there's a lot of things to like about it, like the way the Doctor talks about himself. His other Doctors sort of turn their back on him, and that they're scared of what he's become. I
suppose it sort of ties into what comes along later with Power of the Doctor, isn't it? The idea of the Guardians of the Edge.
Yeah, it really does.
Like there's echoes of past Doctors still inside his head.
And you get moments within this story where you're like, oh, this is like the War Doctor, what we've sort of been wanting to see, like when he's threatening with, give me that stage, or I could just use a rock. Like stuff like that. You're like, oh, he means it.
Yeah, it's like hard to tell, isn't it? It's like, does he actually mean it, or is he just playing the game?
But I wouldn't want to risk it.
Yeah, that's the thing, really, isn't it? Because you got, especially with him being a very recently regenerated Doctor as well.
There's a lovely,
quite what he's capable of.
Lovely sort of coldness to him at the beginning. That he's sort of shut himself off from everyone, like Cass. The way Cass's sort of journeys conclude within this story is lovely.
Yeah, she gets a little funeral, doesn't she? But not the kind that is usual for the Sisterhood of Khan, because she's a child of the universe, as they say. It's very much carrying forward that Moffat-y style of whimsical dialogue, isn't it?
Yes.
And so instead she's like laid to rest, sort of Destiny of the Daleks style, where they just pile the stones on top. But
then you get a lovely moment at the end of the story, and it's like the War Doctor sort of, because he can't confront the cast just yet. So it's nice, but it sort of goes full circle with him saying, I'm sorry, but I couldn't save you. I'm off now. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, he sort of has that one last goodbye of sorts, doesn't he? Yeah, and it is interesting how this woman he hardly even knew does very much shape him as a Doctor, and also the end of the previous Doctor, Paul McGann's life.
Hmm.
And
And I like how
I
the
think
story
it,
describes McGann as well, but he just thought he'd go on forever.
yeah, life's champion, full of
Hmm.
hope, but then yeah, instead he ran into the Time War and was forced to become the man we have now. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. I think this one. I think of the two Big Finish stories we've listened to for this is the one I prefer.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think this offers more
Hmm.
personally because you're sort of getting the events leading up to the regeneration with Colin, whereas this is sort of its own entity. It's a start of a new era, which Big Finish did with the Eighth Doctor. So there's a nice buzz around it.
Yeah, it's not slotting into as quite a tighter gap, is it? It's more of its own room to breathe.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
I would say out of the War Doctor Begins box set so far, I mean, we are still one box set away. The time this comes out, that box set will be out.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
I still think that this is the one to pick up.
I'd agree there. I think it's not my favorite of the three we've had so far. But I feel like if you're going to pick one up, this one, because of this story, is very much a slice of Doctor Who history.
Yes.
And also because it is three separate stories rather than one long one, you've got more of a chance of finding something you'll like in this one. Whereas if you go for the second box set, Warbringer, while I do much prefer that as an overall story, you know, if you get stuck in the into a story you don't like, you're then stuck with that for the whole box set. Here, you have more of a chance of hitting on something that sings to you personally.
And plus, you get a brilliant Dalek story in the end.
That's true.
So
Written by Andrew Smith. So
it's worth your time, this box set, if you haven't got it.
yeah, I'd agree there. This story in particular, what would you rate it?
I'm gonna go for an 8.
I'm going to go for a 7 on this one.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
I think it does sort of lose me a bit towards the end, really, when the plot itself sort of gets going. I think that's what I remember. But it felt like a bit more happened from memory.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually listening to it again, it's not really all that eventful in the end. But I think when it comes to regeneration stories, they're much more about focusing on the Doctor themselves, who they could be and who they're going to be. And I think this does a good job of that, particularly in the first half.
Yes.
And I mean, wonderful performances throughout, and we've always got to praise Jonathan Carley for doing such an amazing job in this role.
It's uncanny. It really
really
is.
Yeah. I think it's from the word go as well, isn't it? There's no real easing in period with his take on the Doctor, I don't think.
No.
I mean, I probably will say he's got even better as time's gone on, but he never got off to a rough start at all.
It's consistent. I'd
Very
say.
much. Yeah. But yeah, so that is it, I suppose, for this little oddity in the Regeneration Advent Calendar as we cover 2 stories instead of 1. But they're sort of short and weird ones, aren't they, really?
I mean, they
So
flow. They flow.
they flow very well into
It's
each other,
technically
don't
one
they?
story. It's technically one story. So yeah.
Yeah, you could almost say that Night of the Doctor is like the pre-title sequence, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And yeah, Light of the Flame does do a good job of very much building off where Night of the Doctor left off. Matt Fitton very much creates a world that spans out of what Night of the Doctor created, really. And so, yeah, it's interesting how that all works out. And it's funny to think that there's like 8 years between them,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
realistically. So yeah, tomorrow we're not quite finished with our detour yet, are we?
No.
We're not going. The timelines aren't resetting themselves just yet because first we have Day of the Doctor with the War Doctor's regeneration sort of stuck in at the end there. So we get to throw in a cheeky anniversary story into this advent calendar. So hopefully you enjoy that before things return to more normal as we go
Back to basics, I guess.
Yeah, proper into the new series with Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways on day 16. But first, 3 Doctors, Zygons, Unit, Daleks, Clara. Loads of excitement to be had as we tackle Day of the Doctor. But until then, take care, everyone.
Goodbye.